Fine, Drew. I guess we'll wait. We'll wait till you're ready.
Oh, just keep waiting.
Just gotta keep cutting everything off.
Well, as it cuts it off, which is crazy. Periscope's like, hey, we're rolling.
We're on, yeah.
We're rolling.
Facebook's just awesome.
Facebook is awesome.
Just kidding. We love them.
All right.
And they certainly love us.
Welcome to Sports Around the Bar. I'm Drew. This is Jake. And we're excited to have a great show with you guys. See, you're already getting into it.
I'm ready, Evan.
Yeah. Did my little intro. What about your intro?
You stole my line. I don't know. No, you lead.
Where do you go from there?
Usually nowhere. Usually I say, Drew, save me while I pull up the rest of the edit, while I pull up everything else. Good to see you guys. Welcome back to Sports Around the Bar. Like you mentioned, we're Jake and Drew. Today, we've got a lot to talk about. Does any of it mean anything? I don't know, but we're going to have a good time doing it. Oh, man. We're going to go through Cam Newton, now supposedly sticking around in New Orleans, in Carolina. See,
somewhere.
I'm not even any good
Somewhere
at this.
down there south. Cody, good to see you, man. We're not waiting. We're getting right into it, for sure.
Austin Hooper, also on his way out of Atlanta. They said they're not going to franchise him. This is what I do. I usually just talk over you. I think of something as soon as you speak, and then I'm like, it's got to come out now.
No, it's perfect.
We're going to talk new CBA, what the holdups are, what the benefits are. We're going to go over that. We're also going to talk about Deontay Wilder and everything he's been talking about since the fight has ended.
Fury's an animal.
Excuse City is all I'm hearing, basically. But we'll talk about that and everything else, guys. Again, today is your show. If you have a burning sports question that is eating you alive and you just want to talk about it, here's your chance to do it. We're open today. Anything you want to talk about. We just spent 45 minutes talking about everything under the sun.
Yeah.
We hope to do that again, but this time just on camera.
Still don't know why we didn't record it. Now we got to do it again.
All right, Drew, what are you looking forward to talking about, man?
Dude, everything. Again, you could say it doesn't matter, but it does. I love the offseason. I love all the rumors coming out. Does Burrow have too small hands to play in the NFL? Oh, my God.
That was the other thing I want to talk about. The Combine. How did I forget about the Combine? You didn't let me write it down. You interrupted me talking about Dwayne Haskins and everything else. Amari Cooper. We're going to talk about the Combine, too, today.
Yeah, we are.
But, yeah, small hands, don't draft him.
Yeah, obviously.
I think they said that about Mahomes, didn't they?
Yeah,
he had smaller hands?
I think he has like maybe
9-inch hands or something.
Is it a half-inch bigger than Burrow?
Yeah. I don't know. What are we talking about?
Ridiculous. Cody wouldn't stop. Randy, good to see you. He says, rock on.
Good to see you, Randy. Yeah, we're going to be talking about all that. Why don't we start with the Combine? I want to talk Cam Newton. I want to talk about everything else, but this has been eating me alive, okay? This is the point of the year, this week specifically, while this Combine is going on, where a lot of GMs make a lot of mistakes in the draft because they see a guy work out in his underwear, and they're like, oh, well, I have 4 years worth of game tape on him. Let's throw all that out and weight it against something where he's not even playing football. He's not doing anything related to football. He's just doing some athletic trials. And I'm going to base my entire draft evaluation on that. A lot of mock drafters do it. A lot of GMs do it. And I can't stand it, Drew. This needs to be the point of the year where you spend... This should be like 2% of the decision.
Yeah.
Right? 98% of it should be, what did he do in college? What did I see here? What do I get by talking to him? What about the attitude? What about all the rest of it? Instead, it seems like it's like 60-40 split, and I don't know which way the 60 goes.
I see. I'm complete opposite. I understand exactly what you're saying. This shouldn't matter. What matters is when you're on the field and in pads. But sometimes those guys don't get a shine. If it's whatever, if it's bad game planning by a head coach or not being utilized properly in the college league, you get a chance to show, hey, I'm a physical freak. I think of like Don Terry Poe. I think about Jones, the corner out of Cowboys, is going to be a free agent.
Byron Jones, yeah.
Going to get paid mad money. I mean, you think about these guys, and the reason they get drafted so high or they make that next tier contract is because they shine at times like this. I'm all about the Combine. The measurements aren't necessarily important to me. What matters to me is to see a consistent athlete succeeding in everything he does. That's why I don't think it's just a 40 time. You look at the 40 time and the 3-cone drill. You look at, the 40 time and all of his throws. Like, you look at everything. You don't just utilize it like, oh, Byron Jones jumped 12 feet.
Well, there's that.
Yes, he did.
But then there's guys like DK Metcalf.
But if you look at the rest of his Combine, he was still exploding off the board.
Yeah, but then you look at DK Metcalf. I mean, guy goes into the draft process, number one wide receiver, pretty much undisputed, and then he doesn't run a good cone drill. And everyone's like, oh my God, don't draft him anymore. And the Seahawks pick up a steal in the second round because everyone got scared off by a cone drill.
And he looks good in the post route.
Well, all I can say is you got this receiver out of the second round that's put up, the third or the fourth most yards for any rookie receiver, and you got him on a steal for the simple fact of He didn't run one drill well at the combine, and everyone got scared. And then the reverse is always true. You'll get those workout warriors. It happens every year. I think Javon Kinlaw is going to be that guy, even though I think he's a good prospect. He's going to be the guy that has an amazing workout, and then we're not talking about Derek Brown being a better D tackle than him because Javon Kinlaw runs so fast. For a 315-pound man, look at the cone drill. Look at the shuttle drill. Look at all this. Look at all the bench pressing. We're going to kind of neglect other players because somebody works out better than them. And it's like, I've seen him on tape. Javon Kinlaw is a beast at times, but he's not always there. Derek Brown's always there. There's the reason I put him ahead of him on my board. It's because he is just the consistent motor guy. He's dominating people. He's running through interior offensive linemen. But if he doesn't test as well as Javon Kinlaw, I guarantee you he's going to drop. He's going to be the second D tackle off the board instead of the first.
Like he is on mine.
Well, yeah, but he hasn't even made. At least he hasn't made it to your combine.
It's not even a knock on Brown. I just think Kinlaw has a higher ceiling. Maybe I'm crazy. Chris, good to see you. Says Fury is the best heavyweight of all time.
Of all time is a pretty bold statement.
Chris, I gotta disagree with you, man. Usually me and you kind of see eye to eye. I don't see it, man. I don't. I think he's great. I think he could be easily. He might get into top 5. He honestly might get into top 5 for me, but. It's not even a knock on him. His style is just so odd. Where when you think about like all the technicians back in the day, like Ollie, obviously, Tyson wasn't a technician, but Foreman was like someone that kind of sit there and just drag the fight out. I like Tyson. I mean Fury. I like him a lot. I think he's great. Can he match up with those greats like that, Kitty? Because Wilder.
But here's my take. Again, we kind of enshrine these guys in the past. But I say this about football all the time. The training these days, so much better. Nutrition, so much better. Everything else.
Back when all those guys that we're talking about, we're talking about Foreman, and you talk about Mike Tyson, you talk about Ali, that competition was so much greater than it is right now.
Yes,
and
competition
that's kind of my
sure.
point. And my point is Wilder's great, and I think him and Fury should fight again. I think it'll be probably one of the best fights ever again.
A lot of people are saying just jump Wilder. I mean, he's 35. He's lost now. It was a pretty convincing loss, too. I mean, he basically lost every round. In my opinion, he lost every single one of those rounds. Had to get it stopped in round 6. Basically, they stopped it to preserve him. And at 35, is he going to get any stronger? Probably not. I think he's going to lose a little bit of strength off the end of it. And then you have Fury, on the other hand, who's 31. I just don't see that matchup happening because it's going to go so far down the road. It has to be the next fight. I think instead I'd rather see him fight Joshua.
Yeah, that's going to be a great fight.
I mean, if Wilder's trying to catch Fury at 36 or 37, does he stand a better chance of winning that fight in your opinion? I don't think so.
But Wilder has beat Fury once.
He has. But even in that fight, Fury won most of the rounds in my opinion. I mean,
it's 1-1. Do you let it walk away at its prime to walk away from it?
They won't because it's money, right? And you always get the third fight. But do I think that's the best fight out there? No, I don't. I think Joshua would be a better fight for Fury. Yeah. I just do.
For his legacy. Is what we're getting.
No, I mean like that's the more competitive fight.
Well, I'll give you that, but his legacy will do better to fight Joshua.
Yes. Yeah, I
mean, because
so
that's what we're getting back to. Is Chris's comment is?
Well, let's talk legacy. Like you said, if you leave it sitting there, does that kind of hurt your legacy that you didn't go in and get that extra win on Deontay Wilder? I think it does. I think you'll always have those people that are like, oh, we got lucky in that fight, or Wilder wasn't ready for it, whatever. And then it's always that hanging question of, oh, well, you didn't actually win that series of fights. I think that's why they're going to go with that fight next. They'll give him the rematch again.
Yeah. Oh, man, we got a lot of comments here.
But that's good. That's good. Absolutely. I'm going to go through a couple of mine, and then I'll let you go through a couple of yours because I see you searching. Scott says the NFL needs to tone it down on all of the new schedule, the combine, everything else. Just tone it down. I don't think so. And let me tell you why. Because as soon as April ends, as soon as that draft is over, it's going to be just the desert when it comes to NFL news. I think now is the time that if they can turn it into more of a spectacle during this offseason, why not? I mean, right now you've got all the hype from the college players. You've got the combine that's going on right now. You've got the draft, and now they're talking new schedule in the CBA. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I think this is strike while the hammer's hot, right? Or what is it? Strike while the something. I'm not a blacksmith. Strike while the iron is hot. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, me. Let's try to get you to save me.
Sorry, man. I was lost.
But yeah, I don't think they should tone it down at all. I think now is the time that this is team building season, and if anything, even though a lot of fans may not find it as interesting, this is where the real work is done. Sort of. I mean, training camp too, and the regular season, and the postseason. But this is important too, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, absolutely.
There's going to be about 3 months where it's less important going on coming up after this.
Thank you, Dad. It is my birthday week. My birthday is tomorrow. Dad, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. No, and it wasn't that I was searching. I just didn't know where to start. Sharif, good to see you, man. Ryan, good to see you. Ricky, good to see you. Will, good to see you. Justin, Ian, James, Brad. I see all your comments. We'll go through them, but I just wanted to welcome you guys into the show, and I didn't want to ignore you. That's kind of why I was searching.
Out of all those comments, I have Ryan's on my screen, and that's it. And it might not even be the same one you're talking about. But Ryan goes on to say, what 6'4" wide receiver like Metcalf has a good cone drill? Some of these scouts have never played the game. Yes, but when a guy is fast, you expect the agility to accompany it. And nobody can argue DK Metcalf is fast. So when they didn't see the agility and it was as bad as it was, I mean, when you say bad, this guy ran a worse cone drill than Tom Brady when he came into the league. Go back and look at Tom Brady, what he looked like in the league. He looked like somebody's dad, somebody's uncle. And he ran a worse cone drill than that. That's what scared everybody. And that's why I'm saying don't worry about it. Just don't worry about these metrics. Yeah. Go look at him on the field. If you're like, wow, I watched him run a pretty sloppy route because he couldn't turn to go run a crossing route or something like that, then I'm worried about it. But as long as it looks fine on tape, I don't care. I don't care that he can't do it in his underwear. All I care is if he can do it with pads on.
Well, Scott's with you. Says the combine is a joke. Just ask primetime. Deion Sanders. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, not everyone has great tape coming out of college. This gives guys opportunities to move up on the draft board. And it comes down to the dollar sign. That's what matters the most. The higher a draft pick, the more money you make. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. Will says Kinlaw will be a top 10 pick, and I'm not disputing that. He most likely will be a top 10 pick. But your opinion of him should not shift a whole lot because we already know he's athletic. So it's kind of like checking the same box twice when you're like, I know he's athletic, and then he goes to the combine and shows how athletic he is. You're like, oh, well, I didn't expect this. Let me move him up my big board. No, you know that he's going to be athletic, so don't be surprised when he puts up good numbers at the combine. And don't be shocked if he has a bad workout. That's the other thing. Don't be like, oh, well, I guess we're not drafting him if he has a bad day or he tweaks something. I mean, it happens. It happens.
It does. Justin's, of course, being the Green Bay Packer fan he says Austin Hooper to Green Bay would be amazing if they could afford him.
I think your money's better spent elsewhere because historically Aaron Rodgers has not really relied on his tight ends as much as he's relied on his wide receivers. You know, he's had a couple tight ends, and they've been at use at times, and people will point out specific plays like Jimmy Graham and Jared Cook. They'll point to, like, Jared Cook in the postseason where he made that, like, converting play on, what was it, like a fourth down right at the end 2 years ago. But historically, he leans on his receivers more. I don't know if that is the best way for Green Bay to proceed. I would say target a wide receiver before you spend the big money on Austin Hooper.
Blanked out. Jared Cook played for the Packers?
Yeah, like before he was with the Saints for one season. Left Oakland, played there.
Oh, is that where
But that's the thing. He didn't do a lot of work there. Even with Aaron Rodgers. When they signed him and he left Oakland, he had a career year with Derek Carr, and everyone was like, oh, he's back. He's going to be amazing with Aaron Rodgers. And then he wasn't. And then Martellus Bennett was the same thing with Green Bay. They signed him. Everyone's like, he's going to be amazing. And then he wasn't. Same thing with Jimmy Graham. The hype was down a little bit, but they're like, Jimmy Graham playing with Aaron Rodgers. His career's back on track. And then it kind of wasn't. I mean, he's okay. All those guys were okay with Aaron Rodgers, but I don't want to spend big money on an okay guy. I think you could go spend that on one of these wide receivers. Like, if that was Emmanuel Sanders to go in there and play with Devontae Adams, that's money better spent, in my book, anyway.
Yeah, but Hooper it doesn't hurt this offense.
No, but it's going to be the same thing. You're going to sign Austin Hooper, and everyone's going to be like, he's going to be amazing.
Ian, thank you so much. It is my 21st birthday. I've been drinking under the legal age this whole entire time, and Jacob's a felon. We have him on tape now.
Yeah, what am I, like 13 then?
Brandon,
that's the case.
Thank you for the kind words. Chris says, happy birthday to me. He says, I don't look a day over 50. Thank you. Thank you.
I won't contest it. A couple more here. Scott says Fury is taking advantage of a weak era in boxing right now. Yes, but you can only fight who's in front of you. Right? Don't we say that all the time in sports when somebody's good and everyone's like, but who are they playing? You can only beat who's in front of you.
It's true.
It's not his fault. But you're right. I agree.
Well, Sharif goes off and says that Fury wouldn't be able to handle the 70s in the boxing. And I'm right there with you, man. That's my whole point. So when you say he's the best of all time, maybe in this era, maybe, But when you talk about bringing in the 70s, even the 90s, it's kind of like, I don't know if he would have been. I just don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm not so sure either. Scott says Fury big man Wilder, and that's all he did. But isn't that kind of the idea of a heavyweight fight? And I'm not trying to take away from your
And
comment.
it was awesome.
He did bully him, but for sure.
I really thought Wilder was going to win.
I did too. I thought he was going
And
to.
then the fight started, I
mean, he
said,
had the big right hand. I thought he was going to catch.
Oh.
I thought he was going to hang around for a while. We're going to be like Fury's winning all these rounds, and then Wilder would just catch him sleeping in the 10th and just put him to sleep. That's what I was kind of expecting to happen.
Couldn't handle the pounding.
No, not. I think Fury was like, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm just going to go bananas on him, and that's what he did. He absolutely just bullied him for 6 rounds. I can't even describe it any other way. And then Wilder comes out and he's like, it's because the headdress and everything I was wearing was heavy. It was like 40 pounds and it wore my legs out for the fight. But your legs shouldn't be worn out from 40 pounds in the first round. Like that would work if you tired out by like round 8. That happened like early. He was on the back heel.
Sharif, with all the knowledge of everything, man, I swear you know just as much as we do, man. It's crazy because no Fury Wilder 1 was a draw. So, that's, now that I think about what their record looked like, it was a draw. Why did people say Fury won? Wilder won it? Is it because he's the champion and kept it?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
I'll have to look it up, too.
I thought Wilder won it.
Well, Sharif said that, so we'll see. Appreciate it, man. Let us know more, please.
Will says Green Bay is going to sign Nakama's suit.
Will says, George Foreman, come on, all he did has a grill. Dude, you should have watched that guy box,
It's
man.
tough.
He was an animal.
Well, think about it this way. It's tough changing what you do after you retire, right? How many athletes go on to do other great things? George Foreman was the greatest because he reinvented himself after boxing. All right. Austin says Rodgers doesn't throw to tight ends. That's exactly what I'm saying. But Justin's saying he guessed we missed the iron when it was hot for those tight ends. Yeah, okay. But you still can't prove me wrong, Justin, right? I mean, every time Green Bay signs a tight end, I hear about how dangerous he's going to be with Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be better to sign Austin Hooper, but haven't we been kind of like through this song and dance before where Aaron Rodgers has got a new tight end and everyone's like, it starts now.
Ryan says Cook made some big plays with Green Bay.
He did. He made some big plays, but game to game.
And then Austin goes on
He was on a milk cart.
But he doesn't throw to tight ends. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw to tight ends.
He doesn't. I read that one, but he doesn't.
No, I'm just saying, it just...
And yes, but everyone remembers the big plays, and then they kind of get a favorable opinion of Jericho.
In Green Bay.
Exactly, because he didn't do anything outside a couple of those big plays. And he came off that year from Oakland when Derek Carr did nothing but throw to him because he didn't have any other receivers, and everyone was saying, oh, Jared Cook to Green Bay is going to be just monumental. If he did this with Derek Carr, what's he going to do with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers? And then Aaron Rodgers is like, dude, I'm throwing Devontae Adams. Like... Some quarterbacks just target certain guys. Matt Stafford doesn't throw to tight ends. Think about when he had Brandon Pettigrew. Think about when he had Eric Ebron. Never used those guys. He throws to wide receivers. Some guys only do. Alex Smith is the absolute extreme to that. He loves his tight end, and he's always looking tight end first. It's just based on what your guy is good at. And to me, Aaron Rodgers targets his outside guys, targets his wide receivers, and likes to get those guys in space before he throws to a tight end.
Yeah. Ricky, thank you so much, man, about the happy birthday wish. He says Brady to the Titans. Are you believing all the hype? I like that Mike Vrabel is legally tampering as we speak, hanging out with Tom Brady. They have tickets to the Sweet 16. They're hanging out in the offseason. They're best friends.
Exactly. It's legal tampering. You want to tell me they're not talking about it?
They're best friends this year.
You want to tell me they're not talking about it? No. Even if they were best friends for 20 years, you want to tell me that they're not discussing it in the slightest? Like, hey, here's what Nashville can do to you. You want to win ring number 7. Here's where that's going to happen. It doesn't come up at all while you're hanging out watching basketball games and everything else. Of course they're talking about it, right? Of course they're talking about it. As for whether it's actually going to happen, man, when this process began, I told everybody, won't happen, going back to New England. But the more I see it dragging on, the more non-committal Tom Brady seems to the situation returning to New England. He could have put it all to bed and been like, guys, relax. I know he had the Super Bowl commercial where he's like, I'm not going anywhere, but that's kind of vague. It could mean, like, I'm not leaving the NFL. And then the Titans being vague with Ryan Tannehill. They're like, yeah, it'd be cool if he's back. And then Derrick Henry, when they ask him if Derrick Henry's coming back, they're like, oh, yeah. Can you imagine our team without Derrick Henry? No, of course he's coming back. It's going to be whatever. Ryan Tannehill, great player. Thanks for all you did. We'll see what happens. So to say that Tom Brady won't go to Tennessee, I don't think that is true. I think right now he's probably contemplating it. I would go to New England back first. Even as a Titans fan, I think New England, just the legacy there, I would probably return, but It could happen. 100% could happen.
Ryan says you don't remember the Green Bay versus Dallas game a couple years back when Cook went off.
But exactly. You're talking about one moment. You're talking about one game. I can name like probably 4. Actually, I can't name them because they weren't special. There were like 14 games where he didn't
more to
show
me
up.
that I don't remember that he was there, but I don't.
Yeah.
If he is, I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
he spent, 1 year in Green Bay, and then they were like, yeah, you didn't do anything with Aaron Rodgers.
Regardless of what Ryan's getting his point across is, you're absolutely right. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw to a tight end. Plain and simple.
And part of that is I don't respect Jared Cook as a player. I don't know. He's great with guys like Drew Brees, and he's great when Derek Carr's throwing to him all the time. But for a guy that physically talented, he should have had a much better career than he's had. How about that? I think Jared Cook right now, leaving Green Bay was probably the best thing he could have done. And just going back to the original point that Austin Hooper would be a great addition there, I think he could be if you added another receiver or two, and Aaron Rodgers can use him as a third or a fourth option, kind of like he is in Atlanta, where people forget about him or can't set their best cover guys to cover him because they have so many other things to worry about, and then you catch Austin Hooper open. I think instead what's going to happen is somebody like the Bears is going to think, I'm going to sign Austin Hooper, and he's going to be my second target, and everything's going to be great, and I don't think that happens.
Michael, good to see you, man. Glad you could join us. Ryan says, I'd rather have Ryan Tannehill over Tom Brady right now.
See, I said that too. And then I was like, ooh, but then again, one has 6 rings and the other choked in the playoffs. I shouldn't say he choked. He wasn't asked to do a lot, but you know what I'm saying.
Sharif says, the word on the street is Green Bay is going to draft a quarterback in the first round.
Too many other needs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it behind him. I think they're looking for the next guy. I mean, they spent a second-round pick to bring Deshaun Kaiser in not too long ago. I think they're always forward-thinking when it comes to that. But I think they're going to say there are a lot of great receivers, and we need someone not named Devontae Adams to catch a ball from Aaron Rodgers. I think in their mind, you made the NFC Championship. You're going to try to improve this team and win one next year. And you don't do that by drafting a quarterback who's theoretically not going to play because Aaron Rodgers is going to be out there playing 16 games. I'm not saying your rumors are wrong, Sharif. I just don't think they go that way. Maybe a second-round pick, I'd see it.
Yeah. It would surprise me, but I don't see it happening. Cody says Richard Rodgers was their best tight end. He thinks that was his name in Green Bay.
They had Richard Rodgers for a long time. I think they got rid of him a year or two ago. I don't know. He's been their second tight end for a while. I would say Jermichael Finley. I think without his career being shortened, he was showing like that bit of promise where I was like, here it comes. He was almost like the Dallas Clark style receiver where you're not asking this guy to block at all. It's a receiver lined up at tight end, and maybe that's why Aaron Rodgers liked him so much because he was so athletic. But it's just he couldn't last. He got hurt. I think he had a neck injury, and it ended his career real short. I think that was probably, maybe not the most talented tight end you've had, the best fit with Aaron Rodgers.
Ian says, going back to the Titans' possible quarterback move, says that Phillip Rivers will end up in the Tennessee Titans uniform next year.
If it's cheaper than $30 million a year, I'm down. That's the thing. Everybody is naming off who would be the best quarterback. I think the Titans just need a guy to come in for a value. If they can get Phillip Rivers to sign a $20 million contract and be the quarterback that has just the most weapons around him because we can afford everybody else, I'm okay with that.
Sharif says that Derek Carr could possibly go to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, we talked about that before we went into the show, and that would be huge. I think Derek Carr's getting the raw end of the deal of Oakland, and I think letting him go would be a mistake. And I think any team, especially a team like the Colts, who are just literally looking for that helm at the top of their offense, Derek Carr would be a great fit, and it would make that team a playoff contender.
I'd take Derek Carr at 20 over Ryan Tannehill at 30. I think, I've been one of the biggest supporters for Derek Carr. If you look at what he's been when you put offenses around him, he's been a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, and he's been an MVP candidate for one of those years. You look at him when it fell apart, everything fell apart he fell apart kind of with it. So I don't know that he's the guy that, like a Patrick Mahomes, that when things are going wrong, he can kind of like drag you out of the pit. But if you put a good team around him, he can be like a Dak Prescott where you can run an amazing offense because Derek Carr is at the helm and you've put enough weapons around him.
Yeah, and he's got the arm where you can air it out plenty with no problem at all. Cody says Teddy to Tennessee would be the best fit.
Best fit for Teddy. Best fit for the Titans? No, I think everybody we named is better than Teddy Bridgewater, respectively. Would you take Teddy Bridgewater or Derek Carr right now?
No, Derek Carr. He's more proven, yeah. Even though Teddy's a little younger.
Maybe you take Teddy over Phillip Rivers, but I'm just going to bet that I get old school Phillip Rivers back before Teddy Bridgewater.
If you're looking for like a right now scenario, it's Rivers. If you're looking to build, it's Teddy. The problem is no one really grabs a free agent as a quarterback and expects to build the future with him, minus like big names like Drew Brees, who obviously wasn't hugely contended after when he became a free agent with the Chargers. I mean, there was Miami could have took him, but they took Dante Culpepper instead. Right. So beyond that, I mean, no team really grabs a free agent and says, I'm building my future with this guy. So
once upon a time. But these past 2 years, I mean, they're used to never get there. It
seems to not be like that anymore.
And I think part of it's because we're finally getting enough of a flow into the NFL where most of these teams are like, I have a young guy that I'm willing to commit to.
So when you talk about Teddy Bridgewater's future, it's bridge. It's a bridge.
It's got to be. Until you have a Tannehill-like year and someone's willing to commit.
So my point is, who would you take right now? It'd be Rivers, because you're going to get a better consistency out of Rivers because he's done it in and out for years.
And I think it's the same kind of idea that Teddy Bridgewater can be a great game manager and probably won't make the same mistakes Phillip Rivers makes. But if you have a guy that's down by 3 in the fourth quarter, who would you rather have lead the comeback? I think a lot of teams rely on that when they're thinking about their quarterback, especially because when you get into the playoffs, you're not going to be able to just game manage against a lot of these quarterbacks. You can't just game manage against Patrick Mahomes or even a guy like Lamar Jackson right now. You can't game manage against those guys and expect to win more often than not.
Will says Teddy won't leave New Orleans, and Cody says Carr isn't a free agent. You're right.
Yeah, but they're talking about getting rid of him.
But there's already the rumors of them trying to go after Tom Brady, which doesn't sit well with the Carr camp, which is a reason why he could be a free agent. But you're right, he is under contract.
Yeah, I mean, these rumblings started when John Gruden got there. Remember, there was significant talk that Kyler Murray was going to go to Oakland. I said that's never going to happen because Arizona's going to take him, but there was talk that if he had fallen to the 4th pick, they were going to spend that pick on Kyler Murray and basically replace Derek Carr a year ago. Next year, I believe, is when Derek Carr's contract becomes escapable, where they're going to be able to eat the cap hit that it's going to take.
I mean, Will went out and said Gruden is taking trade offers for Carr, and I think he has been since year 1. I think that's exactly what you're getting at.
I just don't think anyone wants to commit the contract that he already has.
Yeah, Ryan says he's been a Raiders fan his whole life and has seen every single game of Carr's career. Carr is Andy Dalton. He would take Ryan Tannehill any day.
Well, after this season, yeah, but Ryan Tannehill was Andy Dalton too, remember?
Dude.
And then he went to a good team. And that's exactly what I'm saying. I think all 3 of those guys are pro-caliber quarterbacks.
Andy Dalton went to 5, 6, 7 years in a row in the playoffs.
What did he have?
And he lost.
What did he have?
But not a very good team. He had a great offense.
Well, their defense was okay back then too. Not great, but their defense was okay. They still had good players on there.
It was not like
no, they weren't the Bears, right? They weren't all there with the Bears defense.
What would Andy Dalton do in the Bears?
The Bears today?
Yes.
Take them to the playoffs, maybe win 1 or 2, and probably miss a field goal and lose.
That's my point.
But Mitch Trubisky could do that. No, I think all 3 of those guys could win. And to say that he is Andy Dalton or to say that he is Ryan Tannehill, I'm not going to say you're wrong because I think all 3 of those guys have enough talent that if you put the perfect situation around them, and that's not what you seek in a quarterback. You don't want the guy that needs the perfect situation. But when you get the guy that gets the perfect situation, you want to be able to make a run there. And I think Derek Carr could. Go back to Oakland when he first got there. You had a good offense. You had Amari Cooper playing like lights out. He was a Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowler for those first couple of years. You had Michael Crabtree before he fell off. You had a pretty good offensive line. You could run with Latavius Murray a little bit. They had a good offense, and what happened? You had a good play out of Derek Carr. Same thing with Tannehill. As soon as he left Miami and he got a decent offensive line, even though they didn't play that decent, and he got some weapons around him, and he had a run game, what happened? He looked like a great quarterback. Andy Dalton, even, when he had the offense, looked like a good quarterback. I think all 3 of those guys are capable. So I like that comparison, but you said it in a negative way. I see it as a positive.
All right. I didn't mean to make it sound
like... No, not you. I don't know who commented it.
I didn't mean to make it sound like a negative.
But when Derek Carr was saying... when Ryan was saying that Derek Carr is kind of like Andy Dalton, I'm like, yeah, but he's kind of like Andy Dalton.
You caught me off guard. I was like, what? Did I do that? No, I'm high on Andy Dalton.
I think you're just high, period.
Yeah, probably. But no, I really honestly am. I think Andy Dalton is a very... very good quarterback still, and he's still young. He's had some injuries, and he's these last couple of years played with terrible offenses and offensive lines and defenses. I mean, the fact that he's standing is enough for me to be okay. This guy's good. But
I'll say this: my final thought on it. He's not the guy that lifts your franchise. That's what everyone's looking for in a quarterback.
Again,
everyone wants Mahomes.
Build the future.
No, I know.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with what you said. He's not the guy that lifts your franchise. This has everything to do, and that's the guy everybody's looking for. So Oakland wanting to move on while I think it's premature, they want the guy who can lift the franchise, and when things aren't perfect, you can still make it happen, and you can do enough to get the team to the playoffs. He's not that guy, and that's okay if you goes to the right team. You got to go to the right team that knows how to build.
Well, he can go to the right team and be the lift of that franchise. I mean, you bring Andy Dalton into the Bucs, where it looked like last year they were ready to go if they had a quarterback that wouldn't turn the ball over. Will's going to love that one. But you throw Andy Dalton into that into that team with those receivers and the way that defense was playing, you're talking about a playoff team. Who knows what could have happened there? It's all about streaks at that point.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you go back to those playoff games that Andy Dalton lost, you cannot sit there and say Andy Dalton went out and laid a dud. He played well for a few of them. And he just they
won him a couple games. Yeah, he won a couple games with a subpar roster in the end of the year, right?
Not in the playoffs. He's never won.
No, I'm not talking in the playoffs. I'm talking about Andy Dalton this year.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't listening. All I caught was Andy Dalton won him a couple games.
Ian says he hoped the Steelers go after Bridgewater, but he might be too expensive. And with that, Shreve goes, wow, Bridgewater manages a game, doesn't turn the ball over, and Henry is behind him. Yes, Bridgewater would be a perfect fit in Tennessee Titans.
But I think they're worried about what happens when you get to the playoffs. And they don't want to go into next year like we need to run Derrick Henry into the ground, and that can be our only game plan. I mean, do you think Teddy Bridgewater beats the Chiefs? I think that's what the Titans are looking for. I think Phillip Rivers could, only for the fact that he has that a little bit of that gunslinger ability that when the Chiefs start scoring their points and we go into panic mode, even though we shouldn't have, when we go into panic mode against the Chiefs, maybe he can answer back. I don't know that Teddy Bridgewater is the guy that just answers back every time. And that's why I'm saying I don't think teams respect him as much as Phillip Rivers.
Because no one's asked Teddy Bridgewater to really do that. You look at his career in Minnesota.
They've asked him to be the game manager.
And they asked him to be the game manager, but no one's ever asked him to throw the ball like, even though he's done it. I think he's done it. He's done top 30s like a few times in Minnesota, but he didn't throw the ball a lot. And, I mean, then you're looking at what Ryan Tannehill did in Tennessee. He didn't throw the ball a whole lot. So it's like, well.
But when he did, it was spectacular, is the thing. And that's kind of the dividing factor.
But no one really thought that Ryan Tannehill had this amazing arm. I mean, besides the Dolphins, but you know how that.
I mean, I was talking about ball season. Even in the preseason, I was like, look, Tannehill hasn't had a fair shake in Miami. I think it'll be better than Mariota, but maybe that's because I was ready to get rid of him.
I think Bridgewater might be the same thing. I'm not
saying Bridgewater wouldn't be successful in Tennessee. I think he could be successful. But, again, when you get to the playoffs, is Teddy Bridgewater the guy that gets you over the hump? I'm not so sure. I think Phillip Rivers, when he gets hot, can be the guy that gets you over the hump.
Well, Cody says, with Phillip Rivers, the years of tons of interceptions, what has Phillip Rivers done in the playoffs? Sure.
He's gone to an AFC championship.
He's had some great seasons. But the point is he didn't win anything.
That's true. But what was the last good offensive line Phillip Rivers had? He was probably like 25 years old. He's like 37 now. It's been 10 years of terrible offensive line play. Again, Phillip Rivers, to his credit, is very much kind of like a Kirk Cousins, where he's not going to just totally outrun people and make stuff happen with his legs. The fact that he's had this level of a career with this bad of an offensive line, barely any running support outside of LT early, and then Melvin Gordon late, he's kept the Chargers semi-competitive pretty much his entire career. And pretty much on his own back.
And with a very weak receiving core minus
Gates, right? Let's say Gates as a weapon,
right? But what receivers with Gates?
I guess Vincent Jackson, but
I mean, it wasn't enough to keep him around. They're like,
he's not a Hall of Famer, no, not by any stretch of the mind. So that's why I think Phillip Rivers gets a little bit of a raw deal. Again, it's all about team building. I think we like to give credit to guys when they succeed, and we like to take it away from them when they fail. But you also have to look at the overall picture of what he's been through. Again, the Chargers have not been a well put together organization, especially defensively. How great have they been defensively up until recently? Not very.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Let me get into this. Ryan's had a few comments here. He says he's seen enough of Carr. He isn't the same since he broke his leg. He says Carr has had one above-average season. 2016, he says Dalton, Carr, average. Ryan
wasn't it 1 and 2?
But he makes plays with his legs, unlike Carr and Dalton.
If that's what you want to go for, that's fine. Again, you can say we want to change our type of offense. We want a more mobile quarterback. That's okay.
Not every pocket passer makes it. Not every running quarterback.
And not everybody, exactly. Not everybody fits your scheme, too, is the thing. If that's the scheme that the Oakland Raiders have want to devote themselves to, then you want to get rid of Derek Carr because he can't do that. He's less valuable because that's what you want to do, and he can't do it. But I think the idea that everyone's saying that Derek Carr is, let him go out of Oakland, I think you got to think about that. And again, I'm pretty sure it was 2 good seasons. He was a Pro Bowler 1 year, and then the year after that, he was like an MVP candidate. Same 2 years that Amari Cooper went to the Pro Bowl. He was there with him. And then after that, it all fell apart. Again, Michael Crabtree got old. They didn't do a good job replacing.
Yeah, Sheree says Rivers went to the AFC Championship game with a partially torn meniscus. Rivers is
Was
tough.
that partially torn ACL? I thought he had torn the ACL and played through it.
Well, regardless of this, I don't think anyone's debating the fact he's not tough. It's can you win it all kind of scenario, and I think he can in the right scenario. And I don't. No offense to Tennessee Titans, I don't think he fits the Tennessee Titans offense. I think he'd do better behind like a Colts offensive line.
Well, theoretically, the Titans offensive line should be better too, but
I think he'd actually do better in like Tampa Bay, where he kind of fits that offense.
And we'll just get you weapons, just sling it all day.
I mean, absolutely. He's never had a 1-2 punch combo of wide receivers.
Who, Carr?
No, Rivers.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rivers. Well, you could argue Tyrell Williams is pretty good. I mean, he was.
But he's not.
No, I think he is.
But he's not.
I think he's a good player.
He's not in the sense of.
He's not Chris Godwin. He's not Chris Godwin and Mike
Winston
Evans.
just
No.
threw the ball too.
No, but very few teams have that.
No,
like
you're
maybe
right.
the Vikings.
But
yeah.
you're asking for the perfect scenario. It's either
Sure.
behind a great offensive line, arguably the best offensive line, or it's probably arguably the best tandem at receiver. I mean, in the NFL, it's one or the other. So you pick up Phillip Rivers to play one of those teams. This guy is the best answer. He's for right now. He's the best answer. You don't pick up. I don't think Derek Carr makes a bigger splash right now in Indianapolis that Rivers would. Or I don't think Jameis Winston would make a bigger splash than Rivers would in Tampa Bay, or on and on and on. I think Rivers right now makes the biggest splash for a team that's just on the cusp of ready to win.
Ryan says his point is that the best QBs today make plays with their legs. Guys like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. But I think that's a case of the pendulum swinging. Tom Brady, you got to remember, has won what, like 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 now, I think, because they didn't win this year. Does he make a lot of plays with his legs, short of diving for like that half yard? I mean, you could say yes.
I mean,
but
he's tall.
I think the answer is no to that. Nick Foles won. Nick Foles is not a mobile quarterback. Again, it's all about getting the right guy for your system and then executing on that system. It's never bad to be athletic, but even these days, you don't see Aaron Rodgers take off and run like he used to. You don't see Ben Roethlisberger do it. They're still effective with those guys.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with Ryan's point
But
either.
yeah, you can change it up if that's the way you want to go.
A huge talk about pendulum swing is swinging to the fact that you need a mobile quarterback. I mean, it needs to be that now because of how quick defensive linemen are. But that doesn't mean that you can't get a pocket passer and win right now either.
Yeah, exactly. Will says Tampa has a quarterback already. Stop talking about all this Tampa talk. Let me say this. I would feel better about Jameis Winston staying my quarterback if I could get Derrick Henry in the offseason and work on my offensive line through the draft and just say, look, we're not going to ask you to throw 60 times anymore. We're not going to ask you to throw 55 times in a game. Instead, we're going to ask you to throw 24 and execute on that, and we're just going to lean into teams with the run game. I don't know that I really love the idea of going into next year saying, well, the offense is going to look kind of similar. It's just Rashad Perriman won't be here. Kind of worrisome.
Yeah, no, it is. Lizzie says, watch out, you got Will Mann in here, and he's riding that Jameis Winston train. Yes.
Was train the right word you want to use for that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm with you.
Wow,
it's okay.
Lizzie.
You can have your guy. You can have your guy. I like Jameis Winston.
Don't let Jake talk about your man that way, Lizzie. Reach to the camera and smack him. Ryan says, Brady isn't close to being the best anymore. Brady is
All
a
in good
dying
fun,
breed. Pocket passer. Also, Big Ben makes plays with his legs also.
Once upon a time, I don't know. It's not like before when Big Ben was just shrugging tackles off and extending plays.
Let me get my point across here, and then you can answer that because it's not saying that having a mobile quarterback isn't important. It's sitting there saying that having a pocket passer is just as good as a mobile quarterback. You can sit because you look at Aaron Rodgers this year. He went to an NFC Championship game. Did Lamar Jackson go to the AFC Championship game? He's a mobile quarterback.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of my point. You have to fit the right scheme. Is mobility better right now? Yes, because defenses are getting faster. You're seeing defensive linemen break through and get 20-plus sacks. It is time to have a mobile quarterback. But if you fit the right offense where you have an offensive line like the Colts, Phillip Rivers, non-mobile guy, pretty much his whole career, is a perfect fit for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, and that's the key. When you have a non-mobile guy, you protect him. That's what it boils down to. Whereas when you have more of a mobile quarterback, you can do other creative stuff like roll him out, and you don't have to invest in the offensive line. But when you have a guy that just drops back and throws it and does it with supreme accuracy, the problem is a lot of these guys that come in as mobile quarterbacks don't throw as well as others. Guys like Josh Allen, guys like Lamar Jackson. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, well, he had a good year throwing this year. I think a lot of it was schematic. a lot of these guys that come in aren't as polished of throwers, and eventually you're going to lose the athleticism. So either you're going to live with having a 10-year quarterback and the guy hits 31 or 32 and you're like, I can't use him anymore, kind of like we're seeing with Cam Newton, who we were going to talk about, but it looks like we might not make it. Or you go and invest in the pocket quarterback and you say, well, we'll just keep him still and we'll protect him, and maybe that 10-year, 12-year career turns into 20, and we get to invest in him long term. You just got to work on a guy's strengths, and that's the most important thing.
Lisa also goes in, the offensive line of Tampa Bay is definitely a problem.
Yes.
I think we both agree with that, but you know what would improve it? A run game. Even if it was not an above-average run game, but if it was an average run game, you would see defensive fear the run and cause Winston not to be under so much duress as he tries to throw the ball. I mean, it honestly would. Every coach will go out there and tell you your offense is only as good as you can run the ball. If you don't have the fear of running the ball, you will not be able to throw the ball properly. And you'll throw 30 interceptions, which is still crazy to me that he did that.
Absolutely. Ryan's still he's on a crusade, but that's okay. Like I said, differing opinions are absolutely fine. He says, we're confusing improvisers like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson with scramblers like Lamar Jackson. Again, not the same thing. Guys do things differently. I'll give you that. But to say athleticism is never a bad thing. But
I think all four of them go under both those categories: improvisers and scramblers. If you talk about Aaron Rodgers, he's a scrambler.
Right.
That's what he was early in his career, where he won a Super Bowl was scrambling. Russell Wilson, obviously one of the top running quarterbacks in this league. Yeah, he doesn't have the speed of like Lamar Jackson, but there's no doubt about that.
But is Jimmy G a scrambler or an improviser? I mean, he does a little bit, but he's not what you deem a mobile quarterback. They had a lot of success with him.
What all three of those Super Bowl winning quarterbacks have different than Lamar Jackson is, they are true pocket passers first.
Yeah. Jared Goff
is the reason why it's important to be a pocket passer. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Jared Goff, not really a mobile quarterback. Had success with him. Nick Foles, his more talented Carson Wentz playing with him. Not exactly a scrambler. Eagles have had a lot of success with him. Mitch Trubisky, even though he is more mobile than some other guys, not known to just take off and run with it as much as some of these other guys you want to put on that list. The Bears have had success outside of this year with him.
Trubisky's a scrambler. Not good.
Well, yeah, he takes a lot of sacks though. Guys like Marcus Mariota, he's a scrambler. Did he have a lot of success? Again, it just comes down to maximizing what a guy's good at. Athleticism's not a negative, but it's not the end-all be-all. At the end of the day, your quarterback still has to throw the ball to succeed in the NFL.
I also like to go back to Ryan's point here. He was talking about a mobile quarterback, and then he throws in scramblers. I think you're talking majority of young quarterbacks in this league, including even like someone like Daniel Jones, who is a very pocket passer, is a mobility quarterback at this point in time in his career. He can move that ball if he needs to. Definitely, I want to just point out the differences. A mobility and a scrambler are two different things. When they literally have plays for the quarterback to run the ball, which Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson all have, they have plays in that offense to run the ball, which I think makes them a scrambler. When you're talking about mobility, there's a difference because there's some of those guys that just don't run the ball, but they can.
All right. Lisa says, look out, Will's writing a novel, and I'm going to read that novel to you right now. Will said, but that's okay. I think Will makes a good point here. He says 33 touchdowns for Winston, 5,000-plus yards, team leader. Stop focusing on the negative that was known to happen. Fact. Manning, Luck, Palmer, Big Ben, all Arians quarterbacks have high interceptions the first year under Arians. Okay, but let me counterpunch here before I finish the book. He's also had high interceptions with Dirk Cotter and others as well. Yeah. It's not like a new phenomenon for Jameis Winston to have high interceptions with Bruce Arians because they were asking him to throw enough.
I like the fact his fumbles have went down a little bit.
Yes, that is good, but still, they exist. He goes on to say the second year they went on to have dominant success. Look at the numbers, people, he says. But you also have to look at the full picture. You can't say focus on the positive. Just like you said, stop focusing on purely the negative. You can't focus on purely the positive and say, well, we'll just go with that. You have to look at the whole picture, and the whole picture is we were about an average team because we threw a lot of touchdowns and we threw a lot of interceptions. And, I mean, he had, 7 pick sixes? You're not going to beat a lot of good teams throwing 7 pick sixes. I'll say this. I think they're going to give him another year, and we're going to get to find out exactly what Jameis can do year 2 in Bruce Arians' offense. Would I like to see an upgrade? Yes. Does Phillip Rivers solve the problem for me? I don't think the answer is yes. I think that's a terrible spot for him. I know a lot of people have linked it, and the reason I say that is because you have a good year with Phillip Rivers. Are you winning a Super Bowl? I don't think so. And then you're going to be back looking for another quarterback when he ages out.
He didn't throw 30 interceptions, maybe?
but he threw a lot of interceptions this year.
He
What did he
did.
throw, like
He
24?
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, but he hadn't had the turnover history like Winston has. Ryan says, nah, no way. First of all, thank you, man, for the happy birthday. Ryan says, nah, no way. Rodgers is a scrambler. Never has been. Saying I was being sarcastic with that. He says, we aren't going to agree here, but that's okay.
Fair enough.
I'll give you that, Ben. And Ryan, obviously, you've probably watched tons of football, so I'm not sitting there saying go back because you've never seen it, but you should really look at some of his highlights of running the ball early in his career. You're looking at 50, 60-yard scrambles.
Yeah.
That guy did scramble.
He could move. But the thing is, he was like Russell Wilson, where though he could move, he tried to throw it first.
It's not asked upon him a lot.
Exactly. And you don't want that to happen because you don't want him taking the shots.
But you go back, they had plays where he was running the ball.
Yes. Ian also goes on to say he thinks that he's beginning to think that Will Mann is Winston's brother. But that's okay, man. No, there's nothing wrong with standing up for your guy.
They look like, too.
I look crazy when I was like, Tannehill needs to be the starter in Tennessee. So, I mean, everyone was like, but Mariota, we've put all this into this guy. And guess what? I was like, did you see what he did in the offseason? It's okay to have your guys. It's okay to stand up for him. Maybe Will will prove us right in this offseason. And year 6 is where Winston puts it all together.
I will say it like I've always said. I think this is one of the toughest decisions at quarterback for any organization. Bruce Arians has his hands full. I don't blame you, Will. Letting
33 touchdowns go hurts. But letting 30 interceptions go, you're like, well.
So it's like a coin toss. I think it's a double-edged sword, really. You might do better, but you're probably going to hurt yourself in the process.
I would rather see Teddy Bridgewater there because I think Todd Bowles is turning this defense around, and if you get a guy who doesn't make a lot of mistakes with those weapons, I think you can make the playoffs with this team.
And I think Phillip Rivers can take his turnovers and make them diminish and go into a team like the Bucs.
Perhaps. Absolutely. Okay, is there anything else we need to hit on? I mean, I think the CBA is already dead. We did kind of talk Wilder already. We talked Combine. I got to complain about it. That was good. Yeah. Do we want to talk Cam Newton before we get out of here?
Sure, let's go. It's NFL quarterback episode.
Yeah. I mean,
talk about Cam Newton.
That's okay. I mean, that's what we're all talking about.
Right.
When the deck is shuffled here in a couple weeks, we're going to be like, whole new picture. And now
told you, or man.
Exactly. Cam Newton, going to stay the starter in Carolina if you listen to Matt Rule. Did he have to say that, Drew, or do you believe him?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think you have to say that to him, and I think that you also believe him as well. He signed a 7-year contract. Maybe he believes a little bit in these young quarterbacks like Kyle Allen or Will Grier. Maybe he sees something in their film where it's like, hey, I could fix that, but I can't win right now, so let me kind of get there. But we also talked about their draft pick. We talked about their draft pick at number 7. What do they do at number 7? What if one of these quarterbacks that everyone thinks is going to go above them, what do they do there when it comes there? Of course, I'm the guy that's always going to be like this. You take the best player on the board. If it's a quarterback, so be it. But if it's not, you take somebody. I believe Cam Newton can still do well in this league. I think his time is up in Carolina. I think it's a mistake to keep him there just because you want to win games, that's what he's trying to do, because that's exactly what it is. You keep Cam Newton there to possibly win 8 games if he could play a whole season, maybe more, because you've seen Cam Newton be an MVP of the league, so he definitely has it in him to be the best quarterback out there. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the rest of the roster, especially that defense, you go, oh, I don't know about that. So you ask me if this is the right choice. I do believe it's the right choice. You give him one more year. But if someone's willing to take him off your hands with that contract, you trade him away like he's something like a hot potato.
Yeah. I think it's all coach speak. I think as long as he's on the team, this is exactly what you have to say. He was asked at the Combine about this, and of course he's like, well, Cam's still here. He's still our starter. Everything else. It's exactly what you have to say because you don't know what's going to happen with this guy. What's he supposed to do, come out and throw him under the bus? I don't buy any of this at all. I think as soon as, like you said, someone offers him a trade, Cam Newton might be on the first boat out of Carolina. But instead of that, I don't know. I don't want to overreact to this. If he stays in Carolina, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think that with Luke Kuechly leaving, that interior defensive line needing as much work as it does, even the rest of the offense needing some sprucing up, I just don't see this group going back to the playoffs with or without Cam, short of him having another season like he had a couple years ago where he looked like an MVP. I say a couple, but it's been like 4 now. 5, whatever it's been.
You want to read Ryan's...
No, I don't. No, I'm going to let that go. Wait, which one am I reading?
That one where he... Man, I'll just read it. He says, improvisers, people who make plays with their legs and buy time, but can run if needed. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, Ben Roethlisberger. That's it. Then he goes pocket passers. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning. That's it. Scramblers are Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, Vince Young, Marcus Mariota. That is his group, and he's asking us if we get it.
It sounds like the difference between a scrambler and improviser is can they throw the ball, to me. And maybe people would argue that Lamar Jackson shouldn't be in that group because they're going to look at this year and be like the stats went up, so he can throw the ball. But outside of him, basically everyone you named as a scrambler just wasn't good at throwing the ball. It's essentially the same thing, except you ask the improvisers, I think, that's what you named them. You ask the improvisers to stand in the pocket more and throw, or throw on the run, or throw before they have that first instinct to run. So if you're saying improvisers have the first instinct to throw before they run, I understand that, and I get where you're coming from. But guess what? Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls. Peyton Manning's won 2. Eli Manning's won 2. And I know you're going to say, oh, well, the game is changing. Well, I'm going to say people counterpunch all the time. Remember when, defense was king, and then the defense wins championships?
Or you don't run the ball anymore, it doesn't work. Look what the Titans and the Ravens did.
Exactly. Teams always counterpunch. I'm just not ready to give up on this pocket passing quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Drew Brees. You had a lot of success out of guys that weren't very mobile quarterbacks this year, but took their teams pretty far into the playoffs. Matt Ryan, I know they didn't do well this year, but Matt Ryan's had a lot of success like that. The Eagles quarterbacks, there are guys that are succeeding as a pass block or as a pocket passer.
The difference I see in this list is the fact that the 4 guys at the end, minus Lamar Jackson, is short careers at this point. I mean, realistically, I know Michael Vick had a long career, but remember, he went to prison for 2 years. So he kind of had that time that actually probably rejuvenated his career and brought him back for a lot longer than he should have been. Just health-wise, not because he's not a good player.
And Cody corrected me when I was talking about Cam Newton when I said, looked like an MVP. He was the MVP. Yes, that is what you caught me.
Yeah. So my concern is going back to your original comment was quarterbacks need to be mobile. And all those, minus Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Eli Manning, I agree with you, are all mobile quarterbacks. But who has the most rings? The non-mobile quarterbacks.
And my point has been this. Mobility is not a negative. Mobility is a positive, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Again, outside of Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, I take it back, Russell Wilson has one too, and Big Ben. All those guys, they have rings, but not as many as the pocket passes.
It's the other side that you're looking for. Ryan Tannehill and
Ryan Tannehill.
Watson don't have rings. But
basically all the AFC South guys. We don't win anything. But my point is, when you're saying that athleticism is paramount and you must have a guy that's mobile, I'm challenging that.
Right now,
I disagree. You're having a lot of guys. Take Patrick Mahomes out of the equation, who won this year. Tom Brady, Nick Foles, Tom Brady. Who won before that one?
Tom Brady.
Was it Tom Brady 3 out of 4? Before that, you had Peyton Manning win with Denver. I know Russell Wilson won with the Seattle, and you're going to name him as a mobile quarterback. There have been a lot of guys that have succeeded with purely their arms and not much with a leg play. You just have to protect them. Look at every one of those teams. What did they do well? Protected their quarterback.
Right, says those are examples. Good job. Well, thank you. I appreciate the great compliment. He says he's not saying you can't win with a pocket passer. He's saying it's dying.
But that's what it's dying means.
It's pretty rare for today's game.
I just everyone but Russell Wilson in the NFC side of the playoffs was basically a pocket passer.
I think it's the best analogy I can think of is it's like waves, and you're going to have a low part where it's mostly pocket passers and not mobile, and then later on it's going to be the opposite. And I think that's kind of it just comes and it goes, and I think it just varies because you could say the same thing back when Steve Young was winning Super Bowl champions. They're like, he's a mobile quarterback. This is what you need to go to. And look what New England just did with literally a true pocket passer.
And I think it's going to go the opposite because everyone's saying, oh, well, I want a mobile guy, but most of these guys aren't going to stay mobile for 20 years of their career. You're going to have a guy that might be mobile when he gets into the league, kind of like Aaron Rodgers, and then he's going, or improviser if that's what you want to name him, whatever you want to call it. You're going to have a guy who's better with his feet when he's younger, and then as he's getting older, he's going to want to run less because he's not going to want to take the hits and morph into more of a pocket passer. I think you're always going to have spots in the NFL where guys are not as good with their legs, especially as defenders get more athletic and start to close the gap between some of these athletic quarterbacks. It's an asset if you've got it, but it's not the end-all, be-all. That's it.
We're frustrating Ryan, but I'm going to keep going. He says, shake his head, guys. He says, it takes a team to win a Super Bowl.
And you're right.
Things Brady won are because of the team he's on. The Pats, all they do is win.
But
With Tom
if you take
Brady
Tom Brady out of there
at
and
helm.
put a bad quarterback in there, let's say Andy Dalton,
Matt
do they
Castle
win
didn't
6
win him
rings?
a ring.
No, but he won like 11 games.
Yeah, well, the weakest.
But Matt
division.
Castle's not a mobile quarterback, so we win the argument.
There's no argument.
I know, I'm kidding. But here's my point. Yes, a team wins Super Bowls. I'm one of the biggest detractors from Tom Brady when it comes to that. I say the teams are incredibly important, but you also have to admit the quarterback is the most important position, and without him, maybe they don't win 6, maybe they win 3, maybe they win 2, maybe they win none because they have a bad quarterback instead. Like you said, a Matt Castle. You can't take it all away from Tom Brady and say, oh, he's just a system quarterback that he only won because he happened to be on the Patriots. A lot of those go back. I mean, I don't want to say go back and watch the film again because we're not trying to be condescending, but go watch Tom Brady in his prime. There were some pretty spectacular plays. I think we take it for granted because he's getting older. All right. Did we get all that off our chest? And again, Ryan, you're allowed to have whatever opinion you want. If you think
I love it. Ryan says Brady's great. You're saying, oh, he's the GOAT with 6 rings. Pocket passer must be the way.
Did I say he was the greatest of all time? I don't believe I did.
Nope. He'd argue that you take Brady out, they would still win. I didn't say he was the greatest of all time this episode. But because of the bets I have made in the past, I have to say Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time. I have to. I'm a man of my word. As far as if you take Tom Brady out, do they still win? I still think they could win the game in the Super Bowl, but I don't think they win in the playoffs getting to the Super Bowl.
Did they get
many
Peyton
years
Manning?
in a row.
Did they get by Peyton Manning all those years?
Yeah.
When it was just like Manning Brady,
Yeah.
AFC Championship. We'll see you there. Book it.
I don't think that they get to the playoffs. Do I think they could win that Super Bowl game? Yeah. Because it wasn't always on Tom Brady. But you go back and look at those playoff games, a lot of that was on Tom Brady.
And a lot of my point is, you say, oh, you take Tom Brady out, they probably win. I say for who? If it's Phillip Rivers or somebody that has been an incredibly talented quarterback, yeah, I think they still win a lot of Super Bowls. But if you take him out and put Vince Young in there, and I'm just using that because it's the first example of a terrible quarterback that pops to my mind. No, they don't win, but that's exactly your point. It takes a team to win a Super Bowl. But he's the most important player on that team. And Ian saying it's the cheating and the refs have helped them. Look, we can argue this till we're blue in the face. Do I think that had a little bit? Do I think some ref bias had some influence on it? Of course, but ref bias has influence on every game.
What for the Tuck rule? The Raiders would have been in the Super Bowl, Ryan. I'm sure you remember that.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm right there. I'm right there with you guys. I get it. I think it's a great debate. I have no issue with it. I think when you look at it, it's for the ages. Because what we got to see with what Tom Brady did and the change of the game and these mobile quarterbacks like Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson and how they're changing it, it's great. And to sit there and say that something is dying and you can no longer be a pocket passer in this league and succeed is just as dumb as someone saying you if you can't
must have a pocket passer.
You must have a pocket passer to win. It's all the same to me. I think it's all hindsight and debatable. The only thing I can say is we did put Kansas City as the number 1 team in the league to win a Super Bowl this year during the offseason.
Yeah.
And they won a Super Bowl.
And you know who else called it going into the playoffs? Even when you were having your moment of doubt. You know who I said is the most dangerous team in the AFC? The Kansas City Chiefs. It was this guy. But that's okay. We'll talk more on that later. Again, athleticism, just to round it out, is a great tool to have. But just because a guy has different tools does not mean he can't succeed. It was a great show. A lot of great, interesting content, and you were worried going into today. You were worried.
I wasn't worried.
But it was a lot of fun. I had a great time, guys. Again, agree to disagree across whatever topic you want to. We're not telling you what to think. We just have a good time talking sports with you. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast. Let's do some special thanks.
Yeah, guys. Again, your comments, likes, your shares. That's our lifeline to keeping this show going, and we appreciate all of it. And Cody, Randy, Chris, Scott, Ricky, Will, Sharif, Justin, Ian, James, Brad, Ken, Ryan, Chris, Brandon, Austin, Michael, Lizzie, you guys are all awesome, and I imagine because I just read imagine. I am grateful for all your comments.
A lot of fun. All I can say is I can't wait to do it again, guys. A lot of, I don't know when that's going to be actually.
Just to read the comment is Ryan says, imagine if Peyton Manning could have moved. It would have been something else.
No, imagine if Michael Vick had Peyton Manning's accuracy.
Or he didn't get in trouble with the law.
Well, you could have won some Super Bowls before then.
He's going to the NFC Championship.
It might have helped extend his career. Who knows? We'll be back. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, as always, I'm Jakey Bartender. This is Drew. We will see you sometime this or next week. That's all I can promise. We'll catch you next time.